And now I would like to move on to introduce our panel for today. Please note that I'm going to do very short introductions as you have been provided with the agenda, which contains their full profiles. If you have not received it, I'm going to ask Laura. Laura, please put the agenda in the chat again, so for ease of access for everyone, okay? I'm going to begin our introductions with Professor Bob Garratt from the UK. And of course, Professor Garratt needs no introduction to a CCGI audience. He is a global giant in corporate governance. His groundbreaking bestseller, The Fish Rots from the Head, continues to be relevant for directors who wish to improve their effectiveness today. Stop the Rot was also an exceptional book, which really has provided a lot of guidance for us. Professor Garratt was our inaugural keynote speaker when we first conceived of Governance Week in 2020, and he was given the title of CCGI's Global Ambassador because of his tremendous contribution to our growth over the last few years. Professor Garratt's life spans architectural education, action learning-based community development, the founding of the first MBA program in China, the founding of the Asian Management Center in Brunei Darussalam, and many board development processes in private, family, state, and not-for-profit businesses. His newest book will be published later this year. So we're going to be hearing a little bit from him in a bit about his latest publication. Next, I'm going to briefly introduce Kristian Bainey. Kristian is joining us from Canada. He's a senior IT leader with 15 plus years of experience in AI, digital transformation, and project management across public, private, and academic sectors. He's the immediate past president of the Project Management Institute Northern Alberta chapter in Canada. He's the co-author of PMI's AI Essentials Guide and Global Gen AI course. He's been a speaker at 65 plus global events, featured on PMI's Projectified podcast. He has created Canada's first AI-driven PM course at NAIT earlier this year and was awarded Norquest College Honorary Diploma for 2025, Contribution to AI and Project Management. And now we move to Brian Imambaks. Brian is from Suriname. He is the founder of Technovate Envy and an international certified transformational coach. He has over 15 years of experience mastering complex cloud infrastructure, database management, and backup and recovery solutions. Brian produces custom smart apps and RPA solutions, tailor-made software and automation workflows that boosts operational efficiency, reduce costs, and unleashes untapped innovation potential. And now I'd also like to introduce our two speakers from our last Ireland session, who impressed us so much that we absolutely needed to have them back with us. I start with Ashish Kumar. Ashish is an associate professor in the fields of business analytics at Trinity Business College in Dublin. He's the director of Trinity Center for Digital Business and Analytics and the head of the Operations and Analytics area. He's the founding director of MSc Business Analytics, which is ranked in the top 30 in the world. He's a distinguished member of the Association of Information Systems, and he's a funded investigator at SFI Research Center, ADAPT Center for AI Research. And our final panelist is Vusani Ndlovu. Vusani has worked across key global markets, including in Africa, the Middle East, and Asia, bringing a wealth of cross-cultural experience to discussions on leadership, marketing, and operational strategy. As a director of GCC Board of Directors Institute, he leads membership engagement and communications, ensuring strategic alignment with the evolving needs of board members across the region. Vusani sits on all the GCC BDI chapter advisory boards, providing insights on member engagement and governance trends across the UAE, Riyadh, Bahrain, and Daman, and Jeddah. He holds 2 master's degrees, and he's actually currently on vacation back with his family in South Africa. So we're so pleased that he is willing to interrupt his vacation and spend some time here with us with this International Learning Network. It promises to be a very exciting conversation today. So I want to begin by inviting Professor Garratt to share 2 words with us. Tell us a bit about his latest publication, after which we go to Kristian, followed by Brian, Ashish, and then we come to Vusani. Professor Garratt.
Greetings from quite a warm London, lovely evening in London. Yes, and I would like to thank Kamla and the CCGI, because the last one of these sessions had me really thinking rather deeply. And I've been working on that in the months since, particularly around the idea of intelligence. And here we're focusing mainly on artificial intelligence, but I was thinking, well, what's human intelligence then? And how do the two combine? And can they work together, or are they going to kill each other? And working through that. But last time, first of all, thank you. I learned the differences between generative and then agentic and then derivative intelligence, artificial intelligence. And I took great notes and looked back over the things. I found those really, really insightful. So thank you, previous speakers, for that. And I hope we're going to work on that today. But then I went back, as you know, with governance, I went right the way back and looked at what the original Greek was. And how that has developed over time through Kubernetes, the Greek word, to become governance on one strand and cybernetics on the other. And I'm very interested in the linking of those two. So when I looked at intelligence, I was pleased to find that there was a similar sort of trail in a way. It's about the capability to understand on the one hand, so humans there. It's also about the human ability to implement their understanding, which I thought was very interesting, very similar to the governance directive. But it was also about craftsmanship. And I thought that's interesting, because I think what we may be trying to do, and today is an important part of that, is look at how do we craft future directors? What craft will they be carrying out? And you'll be pleased to hear that the symbol for intelligence in ancient Greek is, or the goddess rather, is Athena, who is the goddess of wisdom and the goddess of craftsmanship. And her symbol is the little owl, the owl of wisdom, which I was rather taken with. So I've actually made it the center part of the cover of my new book. And the more I delved in that area, I also found there was a very English word, which is almost a direct translation from the ancient Greek. And it's only 4 letters. And it's only used really more in the north of England than in the south, but it's called nous, N-O-U-S. And having nous is about being able to combine your knowledge with practical common sense. And that's a very interesting thought that I'm working on at the moment. How do we develop nous for boards? And I'm sure artificial intelligence is going to help us get a long way towards that type of comprehensive or integrative understanding. So human plus artificial intelligence understanding. Yeah, I was getting quite excited about that. So I changed the title of the book. So instead of being building effective boards, it's now building intelligent boards. So you have a direct influence on me on that. Thank you very much for that. That's terrific. The other thing that came out of that was looking at the idea of not just the individual intelligence involved, but also the intelligence needed around a boardroom table and with an executive team. And that's the bit I'm still working on. I know we already have some categories of intelligence beyond artificial intelligence or running in parallel with artificial intelligence. So we have cognitive intelligence, we have emotional intelligence, we have social intelligence, and now we have artificial intelligence. And I was brooding on the fact that around a boardroom table, you need all of those. And we're not very good at any of them. And part of the reason we're not very good is because we don't see the board as a team. Most people's vision of a team is like a sports team, a group of people who come together for intensive periods, do a lot of training together, know each other's plays, know exactly the sorts of things they have to do, and get on with it, nearly always full time. And the intriguing thing to me, and this is where artificial intelligence may play a very helpful role, particularly as it moves into the agentive and the predictive areas. The whole thing about the board as a team is it's not a team together. It is a team apart. And that is a very different type of team. So you have to have ways where they bond very closely the times they are together, but for the most part, they will not be with each other. And that's something I'm looking at in greater detail at the moment. So that's roughly where I am. Don't have any of the answers at the moment. I'm not a giant. I'm only 5'7". I'd like to point out to Kamla, and I hope to learn a lot again. I hope to learn more than I did last time, but I learned a lot last time. Thank you, everybody, for participating.
Thank you so much, Professor Garratt. I love your humility, and I also love those opening remarks, of course, and particularly where you have just ended first, always being able to bring it back into governance and specifically understanding the boardroom, where they're not a team together, but a team that's apart. And I think that is also something that's an entire subject by itself that we need to have a conversation about. All right, so thank you so much. And now let us invite Kristian to share with us. Kristian has quite a number of distinctions to his name, but particularly, it's having a friendship with us, not just here at CCGI, but with PMI Southern Caribbean chapter, where he delivered one of his very earliest speeches. So Kristian, I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this whole evolution of AI with us.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Kamla. Yeah, this is a very huge topic here, so trying to narrow it down in about 5 to 6 minutes here, but I'll just get right into it. So, yeah, generative AI is moving 3 times faster than business as usual in the world. Okay, so what worked in May will feel outdated by August. Okay, because that's just how it. Look at ChatGPT 5 just came out the other day. Now people are like, how do I utilize this? What's the difference between four? But that's the innovation of this whole tsunami of generative AI. It's coming in different shifts all the time. But that's okay. There's a way around it to keep updated, and I'm going to get into it. So again, I'm from Canada. So let me tell you what shifted in the last 3 months in generative AI in the world, not just in Canada, in the world, and how it's already working in the Caribbean, in Trinidad and the Caribbean, and everywhere else on the islands, and what you can do starting Monday in your business. Okay, so if you listen carefully, I'll give you some pointers here. So first, I'd like to share with you the 3 big shifts happening today and how it plays out in the Caribbeans. Okay, so the first 3 big shifts right now is currently today is models got sharper. So the latest models don't just sound smarter, they reason better. So it's all about the reasoning. Okay. So ChatGPT 5 is all about reasoning thinking. Okay. So it's not just about being smarter, it can reason like how a human could. Well, it's trying to. Then it has something called assistants turned into agents. So we heard of AI agents. So these are tools like ChatGPT can now take actions by clicking through sites, filling forms, handling jobs. It's no longer just answering questions, it's actually doing work like an analyst or an assistant. So, for example, if you're trying to book a flight to Guyana or Trinidad or something from Canada, and you're looking for a flight underneath $1,000 Canadian, it will search all these sites. It will take your credit card information if you want to give it, of course, and it'll fill in everything for you. So it's like you going into the site itself and doing it. Be very careful to share and don't share that information on ChatGPT and stuff, because I heard that it's actually been being published on the web. So if you're sharing any type of information on ChatGPT, like there's a link called share, I would go against that, because there has been people have been seeing what people have been searching and sharing, and then you look up their name and it shows up on Google search, and that's just the searching part. So just that's just a tip there. So, anyways, for more competition, so the third one would be more competition and lower costs, right? So with Google's Gemini, Meta's, there's Llama 4 joining the market. There's organizations have more choices and better prices. Claude 2, I noticed the other day, right? There's a free version, obviously, it's a free version of all of these tools. But because of all of these new features and the competition having, a lot of them are just giving more and more for less. Okay, so like you should be able to prompt like Claude 2. It's another generative AI tool, only maybe like 3 times a day for the free version. I think it's like 10 times an hour or something, or maybe even 20, because it's trying to keep up with the other competitors' tools and what they're doing. So that makes AI more affordable and practical than ever. So there's always something you can afford. There's outsourcing, there's always something, but the competition is going strong, so therefore the lower cost. So let me repeat the 3 buffers again. The models got smarter with reasoning. The systems turned to AI agents, such as booking a flight for you, like a travel agent would, which now can be all automated. And there's more competition, meaning there's more lower costs in these different types of tools. So now that you know that, how does this play out in the Caribbean? Well, I've been talking to people in Trinidad and different islands in Guyana and whatnot, and I heard about. I'll give you some examples of some industries. Okay, I'll start off with banking. Okay, so the First Citizens Bank, right, already uses something called Annie. It's their AI agent assistant, and it rolled out password resets through AI. So you're resetting the passwords through AI, which is a lot quicker. So that's a really time saver. And the next step, I'm just guessing, would be loan applications, things like account updates and chatbot services to help with everyday questions that are being asked. So that means faster service for customers, obviously, and less pressure on staff. So that's the banking industry. Now there's travel. So like I was giving an example of travel, but Caribbean Airlines already serves customers on WhatsApp. So imagine a storm cancels like your flight, and instead of calling and waiting on hold, an AI agent instantly rebooks you and sends the new booking pass to the same chat. Now you have to be trained that try to train that AI very well, because it's a story I'm going to tell you about Air Canada that's coming up soon. But that is pretty that is what the future is going to be. So that's closer than you think. It's like in the next couple of months they're probably going to affect that. So again, you can, instead of calling, you just have the AI agent to rebook it for you without any hassle. In the energy sector, in Trinidad's energy sector, predictive AI is being tested. So instead of servicing equipment on a fixed schedule, AI can flag the exact machine at risk of failing. So engineers don't waste time digging through logs. They act where it actually matters. In the telecom industry, Digicel have upgraded its international voice services, which is kind of cool. So layer in AI-driven traffic prediction, and suddenly there are fewer dropped calls and smoother service and happier customers. So people won't see the AI; they just feel what's working better. So of course, with digital sell and customer service, you're going to see a lot more of that. When it comes to the government, the Trinidad and Tobago has a digital transformation strategy. Okay, that's something that they have been looking at for a while, and the AI can bring it to life by closely, simple permits in minutes. It can do permits in minutes, I'm guessing, and offering digital assistance in different areas, so Trinidadians can instantly with policy-based can access policy-based information. So it's just accessing information with the different privileges in the government. But I do know they're focusing on something called their digital transformation strategy. Anyway, so how many? So I'm sure a lot of you have spent time already in this month, calling somebody and being on hold for customer service. So, but you think about this, while you're on hold for customer service, your competitors were already closing deals with AI handling routine calls. So what I mean by that, so while you were on hold, the gaps are right now is customer service because you could be on hold for 20 minutes, an hour, or whatnot. And that's a lot of time where people could have just called in and have an AI to help. And then it's just, it's they answered the question already. So don't think that AI, again, with these examples, that AI is perfect because it's definitely not perfect. So in Canada, Air Canada's chatbot mistakenly promised a bereavement fare refund to a man after traveling to his grandma's funeral. But a separate page on that Air Canada's website notes it does not allow refunds for travel that has already happened. So the airline claims for bereavement rates must be submitted beforehand. So this was taken to court. And actually, the court ordered them to refund the $602 plus fees to that individual. So, what I'm trying to say is that the AI did make a mistake, and it was on the company's, reputation. And the company said no, but it was wrong because they're representing Air Canada. So you remember you have to train these models very, very efficient and make sure that you've run all the testing, which I guess they didn't. But when they went to the court, he did get his $602 back. So starting Monday, what I would like you to do with your business is there's 6 points. So the main thing is to find the pain points. So take the week's top customers complaint and put it into a table. That's your first AI use case, right? Write your guardrails. So draft a one-page AI policy that makes it crystal clear who approves AI, what data is safe, and what human steps in, which you call human in the loop. This avoids mistakes and builds trust. The third is to choose your tools wisely. So like I said, there's a whole bunch of affordable tools. Well, pick one model for the complex work and pick one model that works for mundane tasks. Don't aim for perfection, but aim for practicality. Okay. Measure what matters. So every week, track just 4 numbers: customer effort, handling time, first contact resolution, and cost per interaction. If you have those KPIs and if those move into the right direction, you know AI will be working because you measured it. Share the wins. So let your peers, leaders know what progress that you have done. Okay, and get their feedback. It's important. And then, of course, train your team. Show them that AI is not here to take your job, but it's here to take away the busy work so you can focus on high value human problems. Okay, so the bottom line is AI isn't just a clever assistant, it's a reliable coworker that does not sleep. It's always there, obviously. So the winners in the Caribbean won't be the richest companies. They'll be the ones who take small, steady AI steps every month, building momentum while others debate, right? So other people are going to be debating, but you have to take small steps every month to try to improve a process. You will be up to date. So remember that you're starting AI it will change every 3 months, but if you take these small steps, you will be a lot more ahead than your competitors because they'll be still debating. And that's really all I have to say is that the only question is whether are you willing to be 3 years ahead or 3 years behind, right? So think about that. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kristian. I think that was extremely useful. That final guidance, especially first, the steps in the process. And I especially like this about every month increasing a little bit, because the truth is it's
Mhm.
so easy to become overwhelmed with the pace of development and not knowing where to start, simply because, as you said at the beginning, what we were using in May has now evolved into something entirely different by August. And I think also critical was this point you made about the models making mistakes. And clearly, the court is saying if you're using it as your agent, it is your agent, and therefore you are liable for those. So thank you so much. Brian, We absolutely need to hear from you now because this is a space you have occupied for a number of years where you have
Yes.
been building out these technologies for clients.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
over to you.
Yes, thank you, Kamla. Good afternoon, everyone. And I want to thank the Caribbean Corporate Governance Institute for hosting this international learning network session today on generative AI. And yeah, as you guys already know, my name is Brian Imambaks, and I'm the founder of Technovate NV. And I also want to, I'm really privileged to sit here and with my fellow panel members around the world, and I'm in Suriname, a very small country in South America. So I'm very pleased to be here with all of you. And so, yeah, as Kamla said, I have a lot of experience with AI implementation, and I hope that what I'm going to share today that can help you guys implement the steps that I will share with you guys so that you can be successful. So let me start with where AI is right now. So the last season of progress has been more or less than on the shiny demos that you see all over the internet, right? If you go on YouTube, there are all kinds of demos, but we're moving more into the reliability zone. So the general models have become better at switching between quick answers and focusing on deep reasoning. So now you have smaller models that can run locally on your server with good accuracy and with very long context. And that is something we should look into, especially for small businesses. And what we used to call a chatbot is now becoming an agent, and it's not only answering questions, but it also acts, and that's the agent part. So it can even read your policy document that is in a PDF. It can check prices from your ERP systems. Maybe you're using some kind of CRM system. It can even create a work order and hand off it to a human if needed to take it to the next level. So in short, AI is moving from conversation to completion. And so if you would ask yourself why Caribbean leaders should care about this, well, because there are three important thresholds that we already crossed. And the first is the capability. So these modern models write usable code, right? They can follow policy very strictly, and they can call on different kinds of tools that we used to use. They can call it very safely. So a couple of months ago, there were some breaches with that, but now it's so secure, and especially when you're using a hybrid situation, you can do a lot of cool stuff. And not only cool, but it can elevate your business. So the second thing is the accessibility. You can start with documents that your team already have, right? And you can perfect the data later. So that is the learning process. You don't have to have a complete data set in order to start. So with these small models, you can install it on premises, or you can use a hybrid situation to make it more practical. And the third is governance. We now have workable guardrails for audit, privacy, and human overseeing all these processes, and that unlocks adoption in the regulated sectors. So there are a lot of possibilities now, and this is actually a leapfrog moment for our region. So if we look at what we did is that the Caribbean people, we didn't wait on landlines. So if we're talking about telephone lines, right? The landlines we know. We didn't wait for every person in a village to get a landline. We switched from landlines and we jumped into mobile. And that way we have skipped a total entire generation. And with generative AI, it offers a similar path. So our constraint can become our design choices we make. So and with the limited budget, it forces us to be more practical, and that way we can implement things faster and get our return on investment faster. So so how do we turn this into a competitiveness without the hype that we're seeing? So here's a simple playbook I created for you guys. So the step one is to pick one workflow with a high volume and with clear metrics. So like example, customer FAQ, maybe you have a PDF document that has all your frequently asked questions, or maybe your onboarding document, or even if you're a bank, you can use your KYC process in order to capture that. So choose one. You can choose anyone. Step two is, and this is very important, write a one-page AI charter. So this should be on the purpose of the implementation of your AI, and you should design your success metrics. So when do I say that, hey, the implementation is a success? So those things needs to be defined in your AI charter document. Also, you need to put in your data sources. From where am I going to get the information from? One important thing is the risk level. So if it's customer FAQ data, then the risk level will be a little bit lower than if we go into the KYC process of a bank system. So those risk level needs to be defined. Also, you need to define the human in the loop process, and who owns the outcome, right? That is very important. And so moving on to step three is, once you have created this document, you go to creating a minimum viable agent. We used to say minimum viable product in the product lifecycle, but now we're talking about agents. So create a minimum viable agent in less than 30 days. So that's the sweet spot, what we have come across. 30 days is a very good time to create a minimum viable agent that you can implement, and you can get very fast feedback. And once you've got that feedback, you can put it in your channel, and users can use even WhatsApp to accelerate that process. So and once you've done that, we can move forward to step 4, and that is connect the system to record everything that the agent does. So maybe you need to record all the process, so you can plug it in your ERP system. Maybe you're using Odoo or some CRM system or help desk. You can connect that agent now to that platform, and when the agent can create an order, you can book appointment or even draft permits for human approval, and all these flow can go into the system for you to make a decision if it's a go or a no go. And then we're moving to step 5, and that is the measuring part, as I've already told you guys. So you're gonna have to track the hours saved. That is very important. The response time of the AI agent and the accuracy, especially in a multi-language environment. And after that, you can even calculate the metric, and once you've done that, you can decide if it's a go or a no go based on all these parameters. So these are the 5 steps that I want to share with you guys, and I hope it helps in this session for implementing this. I have a lot more to say, but I think my time is limited. So these are the 5 steps I want to share with you guys. Hope you guys can use it and make a system that works. Start small and then move it from there. Don't go into the hype situation, because I've seen companies, they are all over the place. They they pull data from YouTube. Hey, this guy is doing that. That person is doing that. Of that company is doing that. But focus on your company and look for the pain points. Look for repetitive tasks within your company that is costing you a lot of frustration for customers and frustration for your employees. And design that in a process. If you can design it in a repetitive way, you can automate it with AI. So that's a simple framework I want to share with you guys. So I hope it helps. Kamla.
Thank you very much, Brian. Yes, that was definitely extremely helpful. And you know, one of the things that you started with that immediately brought to mind our initial discussion with Ireland a couple of months ago was
Yeah.
when you said that smaller models may be used that can be run on your server
Yes.
locally. As I come to Ashish now, Ashish, you know, this is directly speaking to some of the geopolitics we had raised in our first Ireland session about how can you trust the models and where your data goes. So thank you so much, Brian. Some excellent points there that we'll come back to unpack in a bit. But Ashish, I'm excited to hear your thoughts as to how this AI has evolved in the last few months.
Thanks, Kamla, and thanks everyone for joining. Thanks, Kamla, for inviting me. Again, I was not sure what I did last time, but it seems it was useful. So here I am. It's always last time I was speaking right after Professor Bob, and Professor Bob had presented such a brilliant introduction. After that, I felt I don't know what I'm supposed to add. And this time I'm speaking after Brian and Kristian's brilliant technical background. So they have told you all about how to implement AI. I thought of speaking to something like that, but now I cannot. So my notes are out. Let me talk very generically about something else. So to give a brief background, what I have been up to over the last few months, and that will tell you the story of where I'm going. As you know, I'm based in Dublin in Ireland. We are part of EU, and over past six odd months, we have been scared into looking at our AI implementations because of the upcoming implemented actually EU AI Act, because that's what we are living at. I also work very closely with large organizations and government bodies advising their AI implementation strategy. So I'm not an engineer. I used to be an engineer 15 years back, not anymore. So I advise them on their implementation. These includes firms like Microsoft, Google. We work with News Corp Group. We've also worked with local government authorities of Ireland. One of the things that we have seen recently is the shift. Now, if you look at the AI journey from, broadly speaking, let's say November 2022, the launch of ChatGPT. Let's start there rather than going back to the 50s. If you go back to November 2022 to first 12 odd months, the focus of AI has been on personal productivity. It was personal productivity tool for the first 24 odd months of AI. How can I work faster? Can I upload this 20-page document onto ChatGPT to summarize it for me? I don't need to read it all 24 pages now. Can I do things faster? Can I integrate this with my email so that it auto checks everything? It creates the first draft of an email. These are productivity metrics. That's great. What Brian, Kristian, and everyone has been talking about this evening, we are talking of organizational business model altering AI implementations. That's what agentic AI brings you. It's not just about me doing my work faster, me, Ashish, being able to answer 100 emails compared to 50 emails that I was able to do before. It's not about that. It's about doing things that were not possible earlier. It's about making an option. For example, as Kristian was mentioning, about automated flight rerouting options being made available. That option was not even available. Now you have a new kind of business model that's going out. So one thing that I talk to different organizations is not just think in small terms. Don't think in small terms only. You have brilliant ways of implementing AI. It's about thinking outside the box. What are the new business models that you can run? What are the new offerings that you can provide using this? But let me also be a devil's advocate here and talk to you about the challenges that I have seen over the last few months in AI implementation that many organizations, big and small, have failed. AI tools and these agents work brilliantly well in a disconnected, siloed environment. So if you create a proof of concept, if you create a small test case either locally or if you have enterprise ChatGPT and stuff like that, you create that. They work brilliantly well in a disconnected, siloed environment. challenge happens when you try to integrate it within broader corporate IT landscape. Now, if you're working, if you're a small startup, if you are a single person organization, that's fine. Probably you don't have a legacy IT systems. If you're part of an organization that has existed for 20, 30 years, chances are you have certain software, certain databases that predate Elon Musk, so or Sam Altman. There's high chances there, and at that point, AI integration starts wreaking havoc, or it's more challenging. Those are the challenges that I think many of the errors that we have seen in AI implementation arise from. Because you give them a cleaned CSV or Excel file, upload that into ChatGPT and ask them to make certain action. That's fine. When you ask them to integrate it to ERP system, and your ERP system was last updated in 2010, that's a problem. If your ERP system is 2025, it's very easy to integrate. If your ERP system is 2010, it's not easy to integrate. So how is your organizational IT infrastructure looking at? That is important. That's important. It's not just about that agents and the AI, it's about the broader organizational IT system, how is it integrating. That will define how much risk you are at, how much trust people will have, and your interpretability of the models and the results that come out of that itself. So that's important part. The second, I think that's important to talk about, is the governance piece. Because it's a corporate governance institute, we need to talk about those aspects. So there's a rising need. We are in that legislative environment in EU already, and that's something that's coming up a lot across the world, and I suspect at some point it will. We need to govern AI. And there will be more and more pressure from regulators, from the governments of the world, and from other organizations, public sector as well, on governing AI. We need to move forward, like the governance, the role of the boards. Professor Bob was talking about AI being one of the intelligences that a board should have. Board will also have the responsibility of monitoring the intelligences. How are your models running? Because at the end of the day, you are responsible for that. Your organization is responsible for the outcomes that you create and the way you run your organization. We did an audit for an organization recently because the organization wanted to identify how much of an AI risk they are at. Now, mind you, that organization did not have a formal AI agent deployed. They had some individual ChatGPT licenses, but nothing formally deployed. However, if you have the latest SAP system, if you have the latest Salesforce system, those do come with integrated AI. So you are at risk. You have adopted them without knowing in many cases. So there is a need for broader governance of AI systems as well. So my advice to organizations is do an AI audit. Which tools you have, where you are using AI. Of course, what I'm saying is in addition to what the previous speakers have said, do figure out a way to implement AI tools, create agents, do things better, faster, etc. But as you are doing, also take the governance of AI into account. Look at where AI exists in the organization. Look at the existing infrastructure. Try to have a look at how will this AI agent, the new AI agents that you're creating, integrate. Running them in a siloed environment with 2 engineers is different. Running them integrated with your live CRM system is very different. How will that work? How will you interpret, and what are the risks? That has to be tied down. And finally, the final point before I shut up there is look at the foundation model which you are running on. Are you using Claude? Are you using ChatGPT, Gemini, or DeepSeek? That is going to have, given the geopolitics in which we exist, the environment we exist, you never know, your government may come up and ban DeepSeek or whatever, or they may have a fallout with United States, and Sam Altman's OpenAI tools may be banned. So where are your foundational models coming? All these foundational models have different biases. Like all of us have different biases. If I ask you about Suriname, Kamla and Brian, both of you will have slightly different opinions, may have, based on your own biases and your learning. All these models also have biases. So what is your foundation model is important to understand, because that's a risk that you run. So I hope I've not exceeded my time by a lot. That's all from my side. I hope something of that was useful.
This is great, Ashish. Thank you so much. Particularly as you spoke about the need for us to understand at the governance level, what are the AI tools we're using? How is it integrated? And I thought that it was particularly important that you pointed out that working in a silo environment is where you get the AI effectively. But if you have a system where it needs to integrate, then you're opening yourself to a whole different set of risks. And most organizations today, that's what they'll have to contend with. So a lot for us to discuss in a short bit. Thank you so much. And now let's invite Vusani. Vusani,
Yes.
it's so wonderful to have you join us. And let's hear your thoughts before we open up into some discussions.
Thanks a lot, Kamla. I mean, Ashish, Brian, and Kristian, do you even need Vusani anymore in this discussion? I mean, the gentlemen have covered quite a vast number of topics there. Love the learning from Brian. I'm particularly leading a project focusing on AI adoption at GCBDI, and we're definitely going to be creating that MVA agent quite soon. So thanks for that, Brian. So I think I'll focus on the part that talks about the governance of AI and give you a perspective of what the UAE is doing, and then perhaps maybe we'll focus on some of the technical bit later. So basically, when we talk about generative AI, we often hear about two main approaches. I think Ashish did talk about one of them. One of them is the European way, which is very focused on regulation first. And then there's the American way, which is more about letting the market innovate freely. Now, from where I'm sitting in the UAE, we're seeing a third way emerge. And quite honestly, for most of us in the UAE, it's definitely what we're watching. It's called governed innovation. So what that actually means is that the government doesn't just regulate, it's setting a bold vision, clearing the path, and then trying to push everyone from startups to state-owned giants to get there fast. So if I'm to break that down, I would try and break that down with three simple points: the why and the how and the what. In my 5 minutes, I think it was Kamla. So first, the why. Why is the GCC moving so fast when it comes to AI? If most of you know that the GCC is basically a heavily oil-based economy, and for a number of years they've been trying to move away from that, from the oil to get focused on other areas to diversify their portfolios, so to speak. And quite recently, with the advent of AI, it's just been a no-brainer. The region has been like, you know what, we have the resources, we have the talent. So how about building a future based on data and talent? So as I had said the last time, first country in the world to appoint a minister for artificial intelligence. So if you think about that, a cabinet level minister just for AI, and then also in Saudi Arabia, they have created a powerful body called SDAI, which is basically the country central brain for all things data and AI, reporting directly to royalty, which is the leadership. So now when you make AI a national priority at that level, things happen at a speed you don't see anywhere else. So how do you govern something that's moving so quickly and this is where governed innovation, the idea of governed innovation comes to life. Instead of building walls of regulation, they're trying to build a racetrack. The government has set the direction and the safety rails, and the goal is to encourage speed and competition within those boundaries. So they want companies to innovate and push the limits, but to do it responsibly. So a great and practical example is something called the Dubai AI Seal, which is a certification, a stamp of approval that the UAE is developing for companies. So it tells customers that this company is using AI ethically and responsibly. So it's a brilliant way to build public trust, not with 1,000 pages of rules and regulations, etc., but with a clear and simple signal that, you know what, these guys are trustworthy, so you can definitely go with. So without that AI seal, just to touch on that, you wouldn't be able to do business with any of the state-owned enterprises or any of the government-owned enterprises, unless if you do have that seal. So at the end of the day, the question in the region is, should we invest in AI? It's mostly on how do we align our company's AI strategy with the nation's strategy? Because when you align with when you align, you find that the government doesn't become just not only a powerful partner, but a great asset as well, and not a barrier. That's one of the deep questions most of the boards are asking themselves. When you look at this internationally, you look at some companies, they are taking a step back to say, should we really invest in AI? If all these regulations come through, then what will happen? And basically, the UAE is trying to remove that barrier. Yeah, and another one of the initiatives that they've just released as the UAE government is called 1 million prompters, which is a massive free training initiative to teach everyone from CEO to student on how to talk AI. So the government is trying to upskill the entire population. And the question from the board, well, my question to most of the boards that I'll be sitting on is, what are we doing to keep up? Then it's moving rapidly here in the region, and it's just an amazing pace. I will be interested to hear more from my other panelists. I think I've said enough, so if it hasn't been repeated already, from a UA perspective. So yeah, thank you so much, Kamla.
Thank you so much, Vusani. And this was really, really important for us to hear as well, because you are quite right. What we generally have been seeing is the EU approach in terms of the legislation and having regulators manage how AI is used, or the US approach, which is very open, let's take the risk, let's try to be first, to be able to go to market. However, within the region here, we do want to be responsible. And you want to find that middle ground that allows you to have a measure of oversight without really suppressing the innovation. And so what you have described to us in terms of how the Middle East is approaching this sounds to me like really, really an excellent model that we can look at. And I particularly love where you have ended, because that's a question directly to all of us. In the absence of a government initiative, as what you have described, where there is a certification for AI that you must first have to demonstrate that you're using it responsibly and ethically. What are the governance processes we are putting in place? And secondly, in the absence of that 1 million prompters with that massive amount of training, what are we doing in terms of training employees to ensure that how we use it, allows the organization to be less exposed to risk? So thank you so much for that. So let's welcome back all of our panelists onto the virtual stage now. And let's engage the conversation in terms of, we have a lot of business people in the audience. We have persons from banking, from insurance, from different sectors, many of whom will have legacy systems. So we are not talking about startups. So that's one. Along with that is what you mentioned, Ashish, in terms of knowing the foundation models and which one do you use, because there's a proliferation in the marketplace. How do you determine, as the board, because what I think is happening, I'm just going to share this and then I am going to shut up to allow you guys to speak. But what I think is happening in organizations is that a lot of individual employees are using different AI tools. and there isn't an overarching policy and vision in terms of how we go. And one of the reasons may be because of the rapidity of the change. So it's hard for a company to say, okay, I'm going to invest and go specifically in this direction, because you may find a month from now that where you are going is not going to lead you anywhere, because there's a whole different approach that's uncovering. So how do we then approach the way we are able to benefit from these AI systems that also allows your company to be safe? Brian.
Can I just? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Can go ahead.
Go ahead, Vusani. We can start with you.
Yeah.
No, when you were saying that, we work closely with the Mackenzie team this side, and they have developed their own AI ecosystem that just really works. And as an employee, you wouldn't be allowed to use any other AI model if you're using a company equipment, obviously, right? So that they find that ecosystem that they've created within the company works well for them. So it is quite interesting that, well, not everyone has the money and the resources to build those ecosystems, right? But one thing that China has proven to most of us is that, well, that can also be an excuse. You can create an ecosystem using the MVAs, as Brian went on to elucidate. So yeah, that's just something that I just wanted to put out there.
Yeah, that's a great insight. What I want to say, based on the experience that we have as a company here, as Ashish said, right, that in an environment where you're doing a proof of concept, everything works perfectly, and that is where the danger is lurking. Is that based on the legacy system that company has and the scattered data all over the place, and the amount of data that we have, when we start to connect all these data points to the AI system, that is where things get messy. And as a database professional in the Oracle environment. So what we have designed is, and maybe Ashish can elaborate on that, is we vectorize all the data, and we create a 3D data model. And what we do is we create a lot of vectorization data, and therefore we plug it in a neural network AI model that has context on every single data point. So that is how you create a super database, that has all the knowledge with context. Because if I can use an example of race cars. So race cars has a lot of regulations and they overlap. So sometimes they talk about expansion, but it means another word in another context. And that is where context-based AI models that you need to train it on the specific data to orchestrate, and then you have an orchestrator that controls all those other agents. And that is how you create a network of agents that works together. And it's like, I always like to make a comparison with a man. We focus on one task at a time. So we don't multitask, and that is how we should look at implementing AI. So create smaller agents for specific tasks, and then you link them together with an orchestration, and that is where you get very accurate data and not losing the what do you call it, the context of the conversation. So that is how we manage to create to help companies with accuracy in data and cleaning up the data. So I would like to know how Ashish, if you can elaborate on that and see if there is something that can be done there.
Brian, this is exactly what I recommend to firms. the storyline is you need an intermediary layer between your AI agents and your different kind of databases. You have CRMs, ERP systems, all of whom have different structures,
Yes.
and that intermediary system is the kind of work that organizations like yours would probably do, which would bring the data, create a data lake or data warehouse, clean it up, provide it context. That is needed. I've worked with other organizations here which would do similar kind of work, provide similar kind of services as well. So I don't have anything else to add. This is the structure that I would suggest. However, I would answer something else that Kamla sort of started off with, which was about how do you choose as an organization which kind of foundation model to use? You can get Brian and contract him out to clean up your data and create those contextual data lines, and then feed them to your AI super agent that you are creating. And those agents, are those agents built on DeepSeek? Are those agents built on cloud? Are they built on ChatGPT? How would you exact that? So we use a framework called Telos. I have put that in the comment section. That is technology, economy, legal, organizational, societal. Look at that. Now, what is your team, your tech engineering team best equipped with? What technological stack can they work with? Are they comfortable with, for example, OpenAI's API, or are they comfortable with cloud? What are they? So that's a technology stuff. You need your AI implementation needs to be technologically feasible itself. You don't choose an AI system just because you know it's great, but you can never work with it. Second is economic. Is it costly? Now, probably OpenAI is the best, but it's so costly that you're going to bankrupt your organization. The additional business gain that you will get will not be worth the amount you will pay them. Do you want to go with Olama? For example, Olama is free, it's open source. Do you want to go with Llama? It would give you a slightly bad results compared to ChatGPT, but is that trade-off worth it? That's what you have to decide as an organization. Legal. This is where the geopolitical aspect comes up. Most of these frameworks don't naturally include geopolitics, unfortunately. So legal, is that bad? Like, has your country gone to war against a country whose foundational model you want to use? So you don't want to expose yourself to that. The other aspect is how legally sensitive your organization is. Are you doing audits? Do you want an AI model that is very solid, very stable, will never share your data? You want probably Olama because that's self-contained. Or you are working with customer responses, take the data away. Like, no one cares about that. So that defines the tool that you can use. Organizational, what's your organizational costing, budgeting, and preference of the CEO that matters. And societal, this is again in terms of responsible AI, how's the footprint, carbon footprint, and etc. So this is what you should be looking at. So the answer in the same geography, in Trinidad, in the same street, two different organizations may end up with two different AI foundational models that they will use. If you look at what is the technological capability and your compatibility with the tool, how much are you willing to pay versus the gain you will get, what are the legal implications, what is the organizational preference, and what's the societal implication. Just use this and choose which foundation model you want to go with.
Yeah, correct. So I want to elaborate on that on the governance side. I've been reading and checking all these big guys that are creating the LLMs like DeepSeek, Olama from Meta and OpenAI, and we've tested out all those language models and the local one also. So Llama and ChatGPT just released its two local model. That is the OSS model. You have two types. You have the small 20 billion parameters, and you have the 120 billion parameters. And we've tested out that on a very beefy machine. And what we've seen is that the reason why these companies are releasing the local model is exactly the governance part of the implementation, is that they are giving companies and countries now the ability to create a local environment that is not that will not affect geopolitical situation. So we've tested these local models, and I was mind blown by OpenAI's latest release with the OSS 120 billion model. It is just mind blowing. It has it has the reasoning model as a academic of a as an academic. So, and if you use that to train on your on your data, there are things that will happen. One is you save on cost. As Ashish said, if you use the API keys of OpenAI, you can get bankrupt by all the API calls that it's making, right? Because when you start having a conversation, we tend to go down the rabbit hole, and we forget that there is a cost aspect of that conversation we're having. So every conversation has a cost. So when we're running it locally now, that part of the cost drops significantly. So that is how we can help you with the implementation of the local LLM, and connecting it and creating a secure environment and locking it down with your firewall that you have. When all the modern firewall that you have in companies, they can just lock down the whole area, the whole network, and therefore creating a very safe environment for your employees and your personal company data. So that is something companies should look into. So that's something I want to add.
Thank you so much, Brian. And I think that probably sounds like music to the ear of a lot of our participants, because as I say, many of them are from banks and from the insurance sector as well. And
Yeah.
protecting the information is going to be crucial for them. So let me just say to our participants, we have quite a lot of you in the room. We are so appreciative that you have joined us. We're going to open it up to allow you to interact as well. So we are going straight into the Q&A segment. If you have a question, just raise your hand, or you can put it in the chat, and we will address it to the panelists that they may answer for you. And while you all think about that, there was something that someone shared with me only recently, and I'd like to now bring this to the fore, given the guidance that has been offered here by our panelists so far. There are persons who are using 3 and 4 models who would try to get what would ChatGPT say as opposed to what would DeepSeek say, or if you use Microsoft Copilot. Have you come across this, and what is the value? How, because a lot of us are trying to understand the system and see how it brings value. So what would be your advice to supervisors and managers with an approach like that? So is it the first time that you were hearing of person using different models and comparing the responses?
It's a very good question. I see a lot of companies using that. I see companies that are using Microsoft Suite. They're using M365 that has Copilot built in. So, but it still needs to be configured with your data. So they are just using it generally like ChatGPT, the free version, right? Only it's paid. So the thing what I would suggest is look at your company strategy. So where are you going? What type of data do you have? And how do you want to use that data in combination with AI? What exactly? Because not in my opinion, not everybody needs AI. If it's a small company, you don't need AI. You just need to structure your data, and you're good to go. So this is more for the large companies that has a lot of data. I would say look at your business model. That is where you start. What is your business model? Are you focusing on, are you customer oriented? Are you having a lot of customer engagement? Then you need to use AI to automate that process, to make it more efficient. If you're analyzing a lot of data, you can use AI to help you process that data efficiently. And to answer the question which AI model you should use, in my opinion, and that is my personal opinion, I think OpenAI is the best model right now. It has all the quirks that you need in order to implement a good and reliable system for your company. All the other models out there, they are all actually based on kind of on OpenAI's model. That's the first model that came out, and all the other models like DeepSeek, it is a derivative from OpenAI. So they used OpenAI's model on a very smart way to save costs and build their own model. So that is how DeepSeek came out, and DeepSeek came out with 3.0 a couple of hours ago, I guess, and it's changing the whole infrastructure. So they are all using components from OpenAI. So if you ask me, the best way to go is use OpenAI. I'm not affiliated with them, but it's my personal experience with using the large language model. I would personally go with OpenAI and build from there. Just use one and run with it. Because it's the hype that I talked about. Everybody's talking, hey, this can do that and this can do, but is it really saving you money? Is it really bringing you clients in? Is it helping you more, doing your work more efficiently? If it doesn't do these three things, then put it in the wastebasket. It's not for you. So that's what I would say. And I don't know about the other panel. Maybe they could elaborate on that.
Yes, I think that definitely was useful. Professor Garratt, I see your hand up. I just wanted to advise, I think was Vinay. Vinay had his hand up just a short while ago. So let's hear from you, Professor Garratt, and then we could ask Vinay to give us his question or comment.
Just for anybody who is still worried about putting their toe in the water, and the last few months, if they're on LinkedIn, Professor Bruce Lloyd has been running a very interesting series comparing 6 models on key questions of philosophy and business. And it's worth just having a look at him, just to get a feel. And then I come back to exactly what Brian has said, when you get a notion of how, sometimes he asks very silly questions deliberately to see how they react. And it's absolutely fascinating. I won't go into the detail, but if you look up Bruce Lloyd on LinkedIn, I think he's doing a really good early education job just to compare and contrast what is available. Yeah, I'll leave it there. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Professor Garratt. Yes, Vinay?
Yeah, thanks. There's a lot of good information, first of all. I hear not this panel, but not this panel, but the previous one who's talking about if it doesn't make you any money or happy with efficiencies. I've been using Copilot. I've been using it for actually ever since it was released to companies, and we found some very good use with it, especially in simple things like drafting emails, responding, organizing emails, et cetera, et cetera. The one thing I haven't heard anybody talk about, though, is hallucinations, which is a very, very real issue. And I do sometimes get a Copilot. I use Gemini. I kind of use all of them, including DeepSeek, which is a very basic form of OpenAI, if in my opinion. What have companies been able to do who are slowly rolling out AI in their systems? What have they been able to, how have they been able to eliminate the hallucination factor?
Thank you very much, Vinay. And you're absolutely right in terms of the hallucination, except that my impression of it was that it was getting better and better, and you were not having much of that, especially with the latest release of ChatGPT. However, what Kristian shared earlier was also very important. So all these errors are still quite possible. So what is the response from the panel to Vinay? How are we dealing with hallucinations?
Okay, if if I may, so again, I don't come from an engineering background, so I'm not someone who would deploy and develop generative AI tools for you. I think Brian or Kristian would have been better suited to answer from that perspective. But I'll answer this from perspective. I have been working a lot with companies, and Citibank, which is one of the largest banks in the world, they have their global AI innovation lab in Dublin, and we work very closely with the head of their AI innovation center. And we have tested all these models coming up. And as Kamla, you were pointing out, the hallucinations are not as much of a problem now. It doesn't happen as much now. And secondly, hallucinations happen more in open-ended context. It depends on how you are setting up your AI tool. If you're setting up your AI tool to answer generic questions in customer support services, and your customer is chatting with them as if it's for their boyfriend or girlfriend, yes, it will hallucinate at some point. However, if you are using a good RAG system, so retrieval augmentation system, where you have built up a specific knowledge bank, so you have said that, look, you've coded your AI tool to say, these are 20 100-page documents, answer questions based on these 20 100-page documents. This is our company policy. There is very little risk of hallucination in that case. You have to define the limits. So it depends on how you are deploying. Now, as an individual, it will still hallucinate if you are just having a chat with your Copilot and ask them a question about, hey, I want to go on a trip to west of Ireland. Give me five unknown, unexplored places. It's possible one of those places may not even exist. It's highly possible. But if you are a tourism company, what you will do is not create an open-ended AI. What you will do is you will have a list of 5,000 best places to visit in Ireland and tell your AI that when someone asks a question, answer from these list of 5,000 points that we have actually visited and curated. Don't make up anything random. So it depends on how you are deploying. So there is a risk of hallucination. It exists. Of course, it's an AI. However, the risks are diminished if you deploy it well. That's what I would say. I'm sure Brian, Vusani would have your own comments there.
Yes, I totally agree with Ashish. The models has been they've been improved a lot, and the hallucination is very subtle, I would say. And it's the question that you ask. If you ask, I would say, stupid question, you will get a hallucination as an answer. But in a business context, Ashish also said using vector RAG, retrieval augmented databases. You're creating a 3D environment with your data. Your data is being 3D visualized, and that will create a better system than just using Copilot. I mean, you can use Copilot and use a vector database on it. So that is how you eliminate the hallucination for your company data. So that is the way to go if you want to remove all the hallucination specific for your company data. If you're asking question out of context, that is something we program in the LLM. That if you ask a question that has nothing to do with the company, just say, hey, I don't know the answer, but I can get somebody on my team to answer it for you. So that is something that you can build into your AI model locally to handle those kinds of questions. I hope it answers your question, and yeah, I'm curious to know if it's of value.
I certainly think it is, Vinay. Vinay, let us know, because you have, as you said, been using several of the different models, so you have quite a bit of experience with it. Right, thank you. So he's responded in the chat that that you have. So there's a question from Zita in the chat, and she's asking, do you know of any successful human in the loop case studies in the Caribbean region? So, Brian, that means that's for you. Since Ashish is joining us from Ireland, and Vusani is out in South Africa, and Professor Garratt is in the UK. So if you're looking for Caribbean region studies, do you have anything you can share?
Yeah. We've built a lot of human in the loop system, especially on WhatsApp, because everybody in the Caribbean is using WhatsApp more than ever. And what we've done is we've built AI agents for company that that were overwhelmed with all the questions coming into WhatsApp. So we created we connected OpenAI with WhatsApp and created an AI agent that handles all the questions that a company has. We connected that to a RAG database, a vector database with the knowledge of the company, and with the human in the loop part is where a customer asks a question and the AI agent cannot find that data in the vector database. So it asks the question to the client, hey, I can't find that information in my knowledge base. This is just an example. Can I ask a colleague to help you out? And if you say yes, then the AI agent takes your contact number, your name, even your email address, and it sends a WhatsApp to the human help desk and asks that human to come into the call and help that person immediately. So that is a human in the loop example that we are implementing for a lot of company here, and that you can do that with voice agents also. We've created voice agents that handles calls, sales calls, closing calls, and even help desk situation. And if the AI agent cannot handle the question, it redirects the call to a live agent that can handle the call. We've even managed to help a call agent that is handling phone call in real time, and the AI is listening to that call and gathering all the information from different systems. It's pulling all the data from different systems and placing it on the screen. And that is how they manage to increase their productivity by not putting the person on hold to look for the information. Everything happens in real time. So that is how you can use the human in the loop situation to handle all these kinds of queries. So I hope your question is answered. And yeah, if you want us to help you, just let me
So
know.
I want to also ask that
Yeah.
slightly differently to Brian, because we have in among our participants Dr. Dion Chamberlain from Belize. And when we were discussing during Governance Week, she spoke about the human in the loop in a much different sense as well, which is if we deploy the AI to make decisions, as a lot of the agentic AI is doing now, it means that you can have people who can be disadvantaged because the decision that is made by the AI may not take into account the fact that with human factors, there are always variations, you know. So, if Dion can hear us and she wanted to add anything, Dion, I'd be happy for you to unmute and share your thoughts. But Ashish and Vusani in particular, because I know Vusani, this is an area that has been a passionate one of yours too, in terms of when you are deploying this among people, how do you ensure that you don't create a different kind of inequity, a different kind of discrimination? Because as Ashish had said, because it's AI doesn't mean that it would be perfect, because the AI comes with its own set of bias as well. So how do we ensure that there's that human in the loop element to protect people's interests?
I just wanted to, well, I'll add on to that question because it's something I also wanted to ask Brian and Ashish. With obviously everyone rushing in to deploy AI systems, and I'll just give an example for HR systems. Companies are like, you know what, I don't need to be sorting out all these CVs and etc. Let's just put it through the system. And we realized that most people are not training the AI system. They're not putting in what do they call it? Human bias checking, right? To see if actually the AI model is biased. You know, it's not being reviewed by humans. So, but everyone is just pushing it in at speed. So, as an AI deployer, do you usually do those tests before deploying? Because at the end of the day, people might get sued. And recently I was reading an article where governments are using automating tender processes, right? Because there's usually a lot of corruptions when it comes to tenders. But now I can say, you know what, as a marginalized person, how did you choose this person? And what stake data or whatever it is that Brian and Ashish could be using to choose a proper incumbent for state project. So that's
Yes.
I'm sorry, that's a long
Yeah.
question and
Yeah.
fully loaded, I guess.
Yeah,
But
it's
I mean,
fully
in
loaded.
governance,
Yeah.
I mean, it's something the board should look at before they deploy such systems, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
Indeed.
one of the things we do is testing is something we don't play with. When we test, we have months of testing exact, especially when it comes to sensitive data. So in a tendering process, what we do is we talk with a lot of the stakeholders that are decision making. We log every discussion. We even ask them we even ask them, hey, do you mind if we record this session? So we record every session, and all that information on the decision-making process, those thinking process, the brainstorm process that we have with the team, we feed it into the AI agent. So it learns on how the team is thinking and in making a decision. And based on that, it creates a model, a step-by-step framework on checking the the tendering process. So if you submit your tender, it goes to that process and it checks out every single objection there is, and then it comes back to the board where they have to make the human there. That is where the human in the loop comes into the process again. There needs before an email is sent, it has to be approved by the board. So the board has the last word in saying, and the AI helps lift helps solving the heavy issues there that are, as in if they need to make comparison with vendor A and vendor B, and maybe there are similarities, so those are removed, and the uniqueness and the pricing structure, all those things are being taken into consideration, and this is fed as executive summary to the board, so they can make smarter decision. So that is something we do in that situation. And on the other question where the bias, to remove the bias, what we do is all the phone calls, every company has a VoIP system implemented in their company, right? So we record all those data, all those voice data, and those data are being processed, and there is a neural network, deep learning system that learns from that and feed it to the LLM that creates context behind that information. So it's a little bit complex to explain, but that is how in high level we take care of the data and make sure the data is clean. So I hope it answers the question.
Thank you very much, Brian. I see that Dion has her hand up. So Dion, yes, please join the conversation.
Thank you so much, and thank you for prompting me a little while ago. I'm very intrigued by what you've said, Brian. In fact, I'd love to have you come to Belize and speak in this area, because I think it's really important to help release the fair. But I think what is even more interesting is the fact that for people to understand it further, I mean, the legislation is absolutely key on the governance perspective, and I think we have to look at that. I like the fact that you're doing this with guardrails on, and we're not just thinking that we can go along the super highway and break all barriers, break everything down, and that's going to be okay. That's important. But I think it's also important, just like in the case that that was mentioned by Air Canada earlier in the session, where it was mentioned that the AI made a mistake. Even humans make mistakes. All of us make mistakes. So in terms of customer service, we have to still have our recovery plans and have our resources in place and our grievance mechanisms, because whether it is a machine, whether it is a human being, we all have amygdalas and we get hijacked from time to time. I don't know what we call it in reference to AI, but we all say stupid things, ridiculous things, and make horrible decisions built on bias and all of these things. We just have to ensure that there is the recovery methodology, and that people are aware that there is recourse and that you have alternative ways of seeking out correction to it, as was done in that situation with Air Canada. No, that is where a lot of difficulty may exist, where we're not putting in place those parameters. But I, for one, see great value in the use of AI and the benefits that it brings. And I especially love what Ryan mentioned earlier about having it work with the agents to support them, because that's one of the hardest things that creates burnout in a customer service person, not knowing the answer and feeling they will be penalized for not having the answer, and having the AI work. That concept gave me light bulbs popping off, and I'm like, wow, that is the way to sell this thing now, realizing that you're not alone. And I even saw a graphic in my head where the human being and they, not to get a AI wife or anything, but I'm saying that too. I mean, where we can hold hands and be friends and work together. So thank you, all of you on the panel, for setting off the light bulbs, and thank you, Kamla, for inviting me in. Thank you so much.
Yes, of course, Dion, and I love the fact that you had introduced this. This I understood about human in the loop because of the contribution you had made there, and we see how it plays out, and in different ways too. Just to give an example, in Trinidad and Tobago recently, we had an attorney who fell prey to that, where they used AI to develop their brief, went to court, and a lot of the case law that was being cited were pure hallucination. So the judge in that respect now worked as a human in the loop to ensure that that justice prevailed, and it wasn't something based on totally fabricated information that was brought before the court. So understanding as we move forward this way, how do we embrace it in a way that has this wholesome effect from the ground up? Yes, Ashish.
Thanks, Leon and Brian, for raising this interesting topic there. So it's interesting, and Vusani, the way you asked, frame that question is removing bias and stuff. So there are multiple ways, as Brian mentioned. One is doing as much checks as possible, independent testing, having the right data. But one more thing that I think we have seen many companies employ, also because of the regulatory environment where we work in EU, is trying to make the models speak for themselves, like going the explainable AI way in these models. So I'll give you a small instance here. So this is not yet deployed. It's being tested because I work and advise Dublin City Council here. And Dublin City Council is responsible for approving planning applications for building houses. And they get so many, it's a growing city. People apply for their housings to be built, and they want to use AI. They want to use generative AI to read and make decisions on them quickly, because there's a 6 months or 8 months backlog here. Now, this is pretty critical. If you knew that your house was, if you wanted to make a house and that was rejected by an AI for no reason whatsoever, the council is in big trouble. You will get sued like nothing else, and there will be protests on the street. Not just suing you, there will be protests on the streets. Again, this is not yet deployed. We are testing these things out in a closed environment. So what the team is building there is an explainable AI model. So you load up all the application details. Of course, it's being tested, but AI will not make the decision. That's the human in the loop. It will read through all the documentation, planning, architecture, everything that you have uploaded, and then create what are the pros, what is the pros, what are the cons of that application system, why it should be approved, why it should not be approved, and given all those metrics, what is the decision that the AI is recommending and why it's recommending that. So what it is recommending, why it's recommending that, what is the strength of the application, what is the weakness of the application, it will come up. It will not go to the final client, so the applicant, it will go to a human who will read that short 3-page summary. If the human thinks that, look, this doesn't make sense, this is not a reasonable solution, then they can go back and read those 200 pages of planning application. If they think it's okay, just say, yeah, this looks fine. These are valid grounds for approving or rejecting. You click a button, it goes. So your throughput in terms of how many applications a planner can handle, goes from 1 application a day to 25 applications a day. So you're still, the decision is being made by that human who is signing off on those planning applications, but they are now supported by this agent that gives a short summary after 200 pages of architectural documentation and design. And the system is not just saying yes or no, it's saying why yes or why no.
So that's a very clear example, Ashish, of where we don't abandon our responsibility to the AI. The AI is not so bright that you give it the work.
It may be bright, but you don't. It's still a teenager. You don't take the risk with them.
Yeah. And we actually go one step further, and that is the decision that the human is making. We feed that back into the loop. So it is a continuously learning process, and you're making your AI smarter and smarter and smarter, but never removing the human in the loop. So all the decision that is being made is being done faster. It's helping the human make decision faster, helping the clients, helping more clients within the same time frame, and everybody wins. And you can move forward with your business. So that is how you use AI. And it's not going to take everybody's.
I have a question for you guys that may seem a bit unfair. It's a bit of a loop, but the way in which AI has been evolving so very quickly, I have been trying to figure out how do you picture what the world is going to look like when AI becomes this everyday part of human existence. And of course, there are all these many sci-fi things we can go back to. But one that really stayed with me, so I want to ask your thoughts. How do we frame our minds in terms of what you see as the way the world would evolve with AI? I'm not sure how many of you may be fans of anime, but I know my children in particular had liked Treasure Island. So not too long ago, I sat and I looked at it again with one of them. And just the start of it, where it is artificial intelligence that is being used in law enforcement and all the things that is meant to be very hard and risky work that you may not want humans involved in. So what would you say is your prediction of how the world is going to move with the use of AI in a very real way? Is there another, like, are we going to reach the stage of Star Trek with being able to move particles and all of that? What is your thought in terms of how we go? And as I see, Monique has just put the survey in the chat, which is our signal. We have 15 minutes to go. So maybe we can end on this note. Where are we seeing the world going with AI?
Interesting. Kamla, if I may go first on this is an interesting thought here. If you look back, there was similar experiment conducted, I think, in 1900s in New York and in Paris, where some of adults were asked, how do you think the world will look in 2000? They asked them from their perspective in 1900, what will the world look like in 2000? And if you look at those, I think if you search online, those rudimentary drawings will be visible, what they think what they thought 100 years later world would look like. We are much better off than their imagination. So in 2000, we were much better off than their imagination. They imagined that you would have a TV that you can carry, which in cartoons they drew it as like this big. We have a mobile phone like 6 inches, just connects everything. So we are much better off. So my point being, it's very difficult to forecast where we will be. However, what I definitely see, if I may now, given that sort of background, now I will hazard my guess, like what I think the world would look. I think it would not, you will not feel a difference on a day-to-day basis. You will feel a difference if you look back at 25-year or 30-year period. On a day-to-day basis, it would not be very different. What will happen is there will be AI around us, and we will not even recognize it's AI. It's part of our life. At this point, if you open up your mobile, if you take it up in your hand, you are using 20 different kind of AI. Your fingerprint recognition, facial recognition, your voice recognition systems, your payment, all of that is happening through AI. It's part of our life. Our day-to-day work will be integrated with AI, and we will not know where AI is, where human is. Ultimately, it's a human world. It's human life. We will be responsible. If you are the CEO, you are responsible. Whether your general manager is making that error or decision, or your general AI is making that decision, you are responsible for it at the end of the day in your organization. But it will be much more interconnected, much more automated world, much more faster, I hope. There are some nuances which we are seeing happening. That is less number of entry-level jobs probably, but will be a very different world. But automated, it will not. It's very difficult to hazard 100 years time, in my opinion.
Thank you, Ashish. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I can't even picture the 100 years, but I think even 20 years from now, it
Yeah.
might be very different. Yes. So Brian, yes, let's hear.
Yeah, so that's a very, very interesting question you asked there, and I actually daily think about it, and I really imagine my imagination runs sometimes very wild, but how I see it is that our future will be more immersive in sense of we're going to have a lot of augmentation within our human body, and that is how I see the future. Like, I mean, we're already in the virtual reality. We're already augmented. There is augmented reality, and that is some technology we are working on right now. And we see that you can. There are even bionic eyes, bionic chips that you can implant in your body and be connected to the world. So I think we will be more connected with each other. It doesn't matter if you're from Australia or Suriname. We will be interconnected with technology, and that is how I see it. And we're going to use more of augmentation. It's going to be all around us. It's like if you can imagine the Pokemon Go, the game. It's going to be something like that. You're going to have agents, AI that you can see with your bionic eyes. That is already a reality right now. You can even go, and I think it's $25,000. You can implant a lens in your eye, and you have bionic vision. So that is where we're going, and that is how we're going to be. We as human will be integrated into technology. So that is my opinion, and if you ask me, I love it.
Well, I don't have much. I don't have much to say. I'm in between the experts here, but I just to add on what Brian is saying, I think it will feel more like AI that is more like the tool that you have to use every day, and be more like a co-pilot. It will be automatically adjusting your entertainment every day. Of course, what you need to shop for, Internet of Things as well. I think it will just skyrocket from there. So it will really be interesting, especially when it comes to our health, right? If that's just integrated with AI. So healthier beings. I think the most I think the heavier workload will be more on creating rules and ethical guidelines on on how to manage that. I think that's where the bulk of all the knowledge in the world and everyone coming together to see if they put guidelines on how that's managed. Otherwise, geez, what's happening already when it comes to risks and the hacking, it is just already getting out of hand, right? So we just need to put that in place sooner than yesterday, and that's my 2 cents on the matter.
I love that, Vusani, because you are quite right. There's so many adventures ahead of us, but with that is also all the hackers and all the bad things that we have to ensure that there are guardrails in place. So we do still have 10 minutes remaining, and there are two comments. One is a question in the chat, so I want to bring it forward from Hayden Collimo. Vusani, I'm going to throw this at you since you were the governance expert in the room here from CCGI, right? So Hayden is asking, in terms of reporting to boards of directors, senior management and committees, etc., how can generative AI be used to enhance data collection and processing methods to eventually lead to improving the quality of reporting?
Geez, that is a That's well, not really a tough question. I was writing a couple of notes um, when the gentleman was speaking here, and in terms of being a company and rolling out an AI model. I don't know if this is definitely going to address that question specifically on what do the boards of directors need before rolling out an AI model? What type of reporting? And I mean, a human approval was definitely one of them. Looking at the independent bias testing, an override log with reasons of why, that was overridden, and perhaps monthly biased metrics as well. So it's. I think Ashish actually will answer that question much better, because there are lots of ways on how generative AI can be used to enhance data collection and processing methods. But from a governance perspective, that is a technical question. I can answer after Ashish and Brian have gone on ahead.
Let me give it a shot then in that case.
Yeah. I don't want to say the wrong things.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. Reporting to board of directors, senior management, how to use generative AI to enhance. So the thing is, the strength of generative AI is not in data collection. The strength of generative AI is in processing, interpreting, summarizing. That's where it's very useful. I'm not sure, or I may be wrong here, that generative AI itself will help you collect more data. You will have to use other mechanisms to collect and source more data from different sources. What generative AI can help you do is process more data more quickly. That's where its strength is. So if you were reporting, if your job was to report on, let's say, competition, and you were reading a 20-page or 50-page Gartner report to tell your senior management this is what is happening in the field, it will take you an afternoon, if you're good, or 2 days if you're a slow reader like me. So it doesn't matter. But if you have generative AI tools at your disposal, what you can do is feed it into them, summarize it, create charts, what the meaning is, compare it with 2 or 3 other sources from Euromonitor, from Thomson Reuters, compare it and create a summarized metric. Look at their website data as well, and what a competition is doing, and create a summary reporting structure. So generative AI can help you do better in those circumstances. I'm not sure collecting data is its strength. Throw more data, generative AI, create a tool. You can create a tool where you don't even have to do something. Like, you can do better things. And if your senior management is asking you to report, it's like when Power BI or Tableau came about, your job as a BI, business intelligence creator, sort of became less important. You went on to do other things. You created a dashboard and told your senior management, you have access to this. Change the filters, make your own graph of what you want to see like. That's what Power BI and Tableau did. Similar stuff you can do. You can create a generative AI backed processing system where you feed all the information and they can ask the right questions. They can start chatting with that. Like, what is happening on the East Coast? What's happening on the West Coast? Did my shipment go out or not? You don't have to report them. So your work becomes more important stuff rather than just reporting. That's where I think it becomes more useful. And that way, your senior management will feel the use of generative AI being more productive as well, because now they are directly engaging and it can answer questions and they can see your productivity go up as well.
Thank you so much, Ashish. But I think the question comes from a place to where we do have a problem with data in the region. So we, as you say, we probably need a different tool to collect the data first and then use generative AI for that second level, which helps with analysis and interpretation. I just want to go to the chat. Forgive me, Brian. I have another question that's coming to you, but I want to go to the chat and acknowledge Edward Millington. He gave us a really nice comment here. He said, building AI trust is crucial for advancing business and reducing liabilities. This is what is preventing many business from improving products and operations, except those who can absorb the research and liabilities, right? So thank you so much for that contribution, Edward. Now, Chayan has a question in the chat, and Brian, I'm coming to you with it. Chayan is asking, how long would you say the testing phase for AI integration in your business should last? Did you say 3 months earlier?
So I said 30 days.
30 days, right? I heard
Yeah.
3. See?
Yeah, yeah, there's a 3 in it. So yeah, so 30 days is a sweet spot, and if we look at integration, I always like to start small, and then you iterate on that. So take a 30-day sprint with very small data, and then work out that phase first. If it works, then you add a little bit more, and then you test again. So it's an iterative process. It's an ongoing process, especially when you're dealing with data coming in from different data points. So that is something. The testing phase will be every day as long as you're using AI. You have within the IT, you have how do you call it? There are phases. You have the development phase, you have the testing phase, and the acceptance phase, and the production phase. So those are the phases you need to have in place in order to get things going. So if you ask me if you're testing, then it's an iterative process. It's an ongoing process in sprints of 30 days. So take one part, and then work on that. So that is what I would say on that.
Thank you, Brian. I think that's a great response for Chayan. Because it's a very clear approach as to how you can and use this and what timeline you should expect. We are 2 minutes away from end time, and gentlemen, I have to tell you, I really have loved this conversation. I do see for governance, it's a real task in trying to project in your mind what the world is going to look like. And therefore, what are the operational things that you want to address that prepares your organization for what that world looks like? So for me, I am understanding that we have come from a place where just within the last 20 years, we have moved from not knowing what email was into our entire lives, as Ashish said. You pick up your smartphone and there you go. So many AI systems that's working with us. So I try to picture what we have already been exposed to through the movies. So we have the Jetsons with the flying cars. We have time tracks for those of you who are of my age, you know, where your hologram, is able to come up and you have an AI assistant that's going to be able to pull information from the world's database and feed you, at that moment, things that you may need for informed decision making. How do we then work that through in today's context? What must we do today to prepare us for being able to make the best of that world? And I think from there, we have to continue exploring this conversation and see how it grows. But today, I think we dealt very clearly with all of the advances that are being made. They're good. It's going to allow for a lot of greater efficiency and so, but we don't want to lose the intelligence, Professor Garratt, which comes from the human in the loop. That we don't abandon the process by giving it an AI that we think is able to work faster and more efficiently than us, because when errors are made, we are held liable. And so we have to take the time to still review, understand what we are doing, be prepared to be accountable for our decisions, and prepare ourselves for making another leap. Brian says every 30 days, no, you can move to another iterated level. We have to be prepared every 3 months to make another leap into a whole new version that's released. And maybe a different way. I'm waiting to see what the immersive virtual world is going to look like as yet, and how we engage that way. But let me say thank you so much. Thank you, Vusani, for taking the time from your vacation to join us and be here. Ashish, it's such a pleasure having you and bringing your wealth of knowledge. Brian, I am so happy that we are connected now and we have this Suriname connection that allows us to bring some stuff from the region. Professor Garratt.
Yeah.
It's such a crazy world that you must have seen in your lifetime and how things are moving, you know?
You're right. I am very old. It's been a terrific session. Thank you, everybody. Really very interesting. Very interesting, dude. And one of the words at the beginning was we are maturing and we're maturing fast. I think that is true. And I like the idea of the governed innovation coming out of UAE. I think CCGI and UAE should, GCC really should talk a lot about cooperation in that area. I think that is very interesting indeed. And you were right just now about human in the loop, and that always intrigues me. But you have to remember, for 40 years, I've argued organizations have a double loop of learning, not a single loop. And humans are in both of those loops. And the board is really the central processor, if you like, using an old technology of that. So the outside one is the part for boards is showing the way ahead, giving direction. That's why we're directors. And what was interesting today is the way the maturation point is the way geopolitics is beginning to enter that loop. And that whole notion of geopolitics giving direction, maturing, those debates are only just beginning. So that's there. But the other side of the loop, the operational, the managerial loop, I think is something that all came out in so many ways today. There's so much happening. But behind it all, there's that nasty little question of cost. And that's other loop. The way the board develops a cost-effective dashboard to use what is being learned in that bottom loop. That's not to deride the bottom loop. It's the operational loop. Is of great interest to me. And I was interested also in the notion of hallucinations. I mean, I think at the early stage, when we weren't very mature, it was fear of missing out. But the thing I'm finding with the boards I'm dealing with right now is not that. The fear is fear of finding out, because they feel so far behind and so lost that they're actually scared to even start asking, what is this really about and how do we use it? So I think for GCI particularly, there's got to be some way of breaking down that fear of finding out there. But it's all about learning in the end. And I'm still convinced that AI is really helpful, but it's helpful in enlarging and developing human learning in both those loops. That's where I am. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Professor Garratt. I agree with you entirely. And as you mentioned, we didn't discuss geopolitics all that much today. That is because I knew over the last few months, there's been all this amount of developments with the AI models themselves.
Yeah.
However, as we come to our global conference in November, I think that we do need to look at geopolitics on the whole and how that is impacting governance of our organizations. So
Yeah.
that's going to be our theme for our global conference this year. The role of geopolitics and how we prepare for the changes that are happening around us with our organizations. Right, so thank you all so much. Thank you to our participants for taking the time to join us. Thank you so much again, Ashish, Vusani, and Brian, Professor Garratt. And we will talk again sometime soon for another CCGI session.